Hello, my name is Kim Wade and I'm from Inner Gaze Yoga. Just want to thank you for opening this up. A world's beloved teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, passed away this month, January 2022. And he's given me so much in his lessons and in his learning that I wanted to honor him and read one of my very favorite books by him for you to enjoy in case you haven't read it. And it is True Love, a practice for awakening the heart. So get comfortable here, please, and we'll enjoy this story. He really did teach me so much about love, not just love for a beloved, but for my children, for my world, even for myself. So much awareness of really what love is. So this is for you, Thich Nhat Hanh. Sit back and enjoy. True Love, a practice for awakening the heart by Thich Nhat Hanh. True love. The four aspects of love. According to Buddhism, there are four elements of true love. The first is Maitri, which can be translated as loving kindness or benevolence. Loving kindness is not only the desire to make someone happy, to bring joy to a beloved person, it is the ability to bring joy and happiness to the person you love. Because even if your intention is to love this person, your love might make him or her suffer. Training is needed in order to love properly. And to be able to give happiness and joy, you must practice deep looking directed toward the person you love. Because if you do not understand this person, you cannot love properly. Understanding is the essence of love. If you cannot understand, you cannot love. That is the message of the Buddha. If a husband, for example, does not understand his wife's deepest troubles, her deepest aspirations, if he does not understand her suffering, he will not be able to love her in the right way. Without understanding, love is an impossible thing. What must we do in order to understand a person? We must have time. We must practice looking deeply into this person. We must be there, attentive. We must observe. We must look deeply. And the fruit of this looking deeply is called understanding. Love is a true thing if it is made up of a substance called understanding. The second element of true love is compassion. This is not only the desire to ease the pain of another person, but the ability to do so. You must practice deep looking in order to gain a good understanding of the nature of the suffering of this person, in order to be able to help him or her to change. Knowledge and understanding are always at the root of the practice. The practice of understanding is the practice of meditation. To meditate is to look deeply into the heart of things. The third element of true love is joy. If there is no joy in love, it is not true love. If you are suffering all the time, if you cry all the time, and if you make the person you love cry, this is not really love. It is even the opposite. If there is no joy in your love, you can be sure that it is not true love. The fourth element is equanimity or freedom. In true love, you attain freedom. When you love, you bring freedom to the person you love. If the opposite is true, it is not true love. You must love in such a way that the person you love feels free, not only outside, but also inside. Dear one, do you have enough space in your heart and all around you? This is an intelligent question for testing out whether your love is something real. Love is being there. To love in the context of Buddhism is above all to be there. But being there is not an easy thing. Some training is necessary, some practice. If you are not there, how can you love? Being there is very much an art, the art of meditation, because meditating is bringing your true essence to the here and now. The question that arises is, do you have time to love? I know a boy of 12 whose father asked him one day, "Son, what would you like for your birthday present?" The boy did not know how to answer his father, who was a very rich man, able to buy anything for his son. But the boy did not want anything except his father's presence. Because the role the father played kept him very busy, he did not have time to devote to his wife and children. Being rich is an obstacle to loving. When you are rich, you want to continue to be rich. And so you end up devoting all your time, all your energy in your daily life to staying rich. If this father were to understand what true love is, he would do whatever is necessary to find time for his son and his wife. The most precious gift you can give to the one you love is your true presence. What must we do to really be there? Those who have practiced Buddhist meditation know that meditating is above all being present to yourself, to those you love, to life. So I would propose a very simple practice to you, the practice of mindful breathing. Breathing, I know that I am breathing in. Breathing, I know that I am breathing out. If you do that with a little concentration, then you will be able to really be there. Because in our daily life, our mind and our body are rarely together. Our body might be there, but our mind is somewhere else. Maybe you are lost in regrets about the past, maybe in worries about the future, or else you are preoccupied with your plans, with anger, or with jealousy. And so your mind is not really there with your body. Between the mind and the body, there is something that can serve as a bridge. The moment you begin to practice mindful breathing, your body and your mind begin to come together with one another. It takes only 10 to 20 seconds to accomplish this miracle called oneness of body and mind. With mindful breathing, you can bring body and mind together in the present moment, and every one of us can do it, even a child. The Buddha left us an absolutely essential text, the discourse on the practice of mindful breathing. If you really want to practice Buddhist meditation, you must study this text. If the father I was talking about had known that, if he would have begun to breathe in and breathe out mindfully, and then 1 or 2 minutes later, he would have approached his son. He would have looked at him with a smile, and he would have said, "My dear, I am here for you." This is the greatest gift you can give to someone you love. In Buddhism, we talk about mantras. A mantra is a magic formula that, once it is uttered, can entirely change a situation, our mind, our body, or a person. But this magic formula must be spoken in a state of concentration, that is to say, a state in which body and mind are absolutely in a state of unity. What you can say then in the state of being becomes a mantra. So I'm going to present to you a very effective mantra, not in Sanskrit or Tibetan, but in English. Dear one, I am here for you. Perhaps this evening you will try for a few minutes to practice mindful breathing in order to bring your body and mind together. You will approach the person you love, and with this mindfulness, with this concentration, you will look into his or her eyes And you will begin to utter this formula: dear one, I am really here for you. You must say that with your body and with your mind at the same time, and then you will see the transformation. Do you have enough time to love? Can you make sure that in your everyday life you have a little time to love? We do not have much time together. We are too busy. In the morning while eating breakfast, we do not look at the person we love. We do not have enough time for it. We eat very quickly while thinking about other things, and sometimes we even hold a newspaper that hides the face of the person we love. In the evening, when we come home, we are too tired to be able to look at the person we love. We must bring about a revolution in our way of living our everyday lives, because our happiness, our lives, are within ourselves. Recognizing the presence of the other. I would now like to present a second mantra to you. When you are really there, you have the ability to recognize the presence of the other. To be there is the first step, and recognizing the presence of the other is the second step. To love is to recognize. To be loved is to be recognized by the other. If you love someone and you continue to ignore his or her presence, this is not true love. Perhaps your intention is not to ignore this person, but the way you act, look, and speak does not manifest the desire to recognize the presence of the other. When we are loved, we wish the other to recognize our presence, and this is a very important practice. You must do whatever is necessary to be able to do this. Recognize the presence of the person you love several times each day. To attain this goal, it is also necessary to practice oneness of body and mind. Practice an in-breath and an out-breath 3 times, 5 times, 7 times. Then you approach this person. You look at him or her mindfully with a smile, and you begin to say the second mantra: dear one, I know that you are here, and it makes me very happy. If you practice in this way with a lot of concentration and mindfulness, you will see that this person will open immediately like a flower blossoming. To be loved is to be recognized, and you can do that several times a day. It is not difficult at all, and it is a true meditation. Whatever you do mindfully is meditation. When you touch a flower, you can touch it with your fingers, but better yet, you can touch it mindfully with your full awareness. Breathing in, I know that the flower is there. Breathing out, I smile at the flower. While you are practicing in this way, you are really there. And at the same time, the flower is really there. If you are not really there, nothing is there. The sunset is something marvelous, and so is the full moon. But since you are not really there, the sunset is not for you. From time to time, I let myself look at the full moon. I take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and I practice. I know you are there, and I am very glad about it. I practice that with the full moon, with the cherry blossoms. We are surrounded by miracles, but we have to recognize them. Otherwise, there is no life. The Buddha told us this: the past is no longer there. The future is not here yet. There is only one moment in which life is available, and that is the present moment. To meditate is to bring body and mind back to the present moment so that you do not miss your appointment with life. Albert Camus wrote a novel, The Stranger, in which his character is condemned to death 3 days before his execution, he is able for the first time in his life to touch the blue sky. He is in his cell. He is looking at the ceiling. He discovers a square of blue sky appearing through the skylight. Strangely enough, a man 40 years of age is able to see the blue sky for the first time. Of course, he had looked at the stars in the blue sky more than once before, but this time it was for real. We might not know how to touch the blue sky in such a profound way. The moment of awareness Camus describes is mindfulness. Suddenly, you are able to touch life. In Buddhism, the energy that helps us to touch life deeply is called smriti, the energy of mindfulness. Everyone possesses a seed of this energy. If we practice mindful breathing, we can generate this energy. When you breathe in, you recognize at that moment that this is an in-breath. When you breathe out, you are aware of the fact that this is an out-breath. Recognizing what is there in the present moment is attention. That is the energy of mindfulness. So then, with this mantra, you are going to practice recognizing the presence of the person you love. Dear one, I know that you are there, and it makes me really happy. This is the real meditation. In this particular meditation, all at once, there is love, compassion, joy, and freedom, the 4 constituents of the true love of which the Buddha speaks. Being there when someone is suffering. The third mantra is used in circumstances in which the person you love is suffering. When you are living mindfully, you know what is happening in your situation in the present moment. Therefore, it is easy for you to notice when the person you love is suffering. At such a time, you go to him or her with your body and mind unified, with concentration, and you utter the third mantra. Dear one, I know that you are suffering. That is why I am here for you. Because when we are suffering, we have a strong need for the presence of the person we love. If we are suffering and the man or woman we love ignores us, then we suffer more. So what we can do right away is to manifest our true presence to the beloved person and say the mantra with all our mindfulness. Dear one, I know that you are suffering. That is why I am here for you. Even before you actually do something to help, the person you love is relieved. Your presence is a miracle. Your understanding of his or her pain is a miracle. And you are able to offer this aspect of your love immediately. Really try to be there for yourself, for life, for the people that you love. Recognize the presence of those who live in the same place as you, and try to be there when one of them is suffering, because your presence is so precious for this person. In this way, you will be practicing love 24 hours a day. Overcoming pride. The fourth mantra is more difficult to practice. It has to do with a situation in which you are suffering yourself, and you think that your suffering has been created by the person you love most in the world. If it had been someone else who had said that to you or done that to you, without a doubt, you would be suffering less. But in this case, it is the person I love most in the world who said that to me or who did that to me, and I am suffering more. I am deeply hurt by the fact that my suffering was caused by the person I love the most. I feel like going to my room, closing the door, staying by myself and crying. I refuse to go to him or her to ask for help, so now it is pride that is the obstacle. According to the teaching of the Buddha, in true love, there is no place for pride. If you are suffering, every time you are suffering, you must go to the person in question and ask for his or her help. That is true love. Do not let pride keep you apart. If you think your love for this person is true love, you must overcome your pride. You must always go to him or her. That is why I have invented this mantra for you. Practice so as to bring about oneness of your body and mind before going to the person to say the fourth mantra. Dear one, I am suffering. Please help. This is very simple, but very hard to do. I would like to tell you a story from my country. A young man went off to war, leaving his pregnant wife behind. 2 years later, he was able to return home, and the young woman went with their young son to meet her husband. And they cried together out of joy. In Vietnam, in our tradition, when an event of this kind takes place, it has to be announced to the ancestors. So the young father asked his wife to go to the market to buy the things that are needed for the offering that is placed on the altar to the ancestors. Such an altar is found in every house. Each morning, we burn a stick of incense to our ancestors on this altar, and in this way, we make a connection with them. Burning this incense, adorning the altar with photographs of our ancestors, and dusting the shrine off are very important gestures. These are moments in which we come in contact with our ancestors. There are people living in the world who are completely uprooted because they do not practice such a turning toward their ancestors. So the young wife went off to the market. During this time, the young father was trying to convince his child to call him daddy. The little boy refused. Mister, you're not my daddy. My daddy is somebody else. He visits us every night, and my mommy talks to him every night, and very often she cries with him. And every time my mommy sits down, he sits down too. Every time she lies down, he lies down too. After he heard these words, the young father's happiness entirely evaporated. His heart turned into a block of ice. He felt hurt, deeply humiliated, and that is why when his wife came home, he would no longer look at her or speak at her. He ignored her. The woman herself began to suffer. She felt humiliated, hurt. When the offering was placed on the altar, the young father burned the incense, recited the prayers to the ancestors, and did the 4 traditional prostrations. Then he picked the mat up instead of leaving it there for his wife so she could do the 4 in her turn. In his mind, he thought that she was not qualified to present herself before the ancestors, and she was humiliated by this. After the ceremony, he didn't stay at the house to eat, but went to the village and spent the day in a bar. He tried to forget his suffering by drinking alcohol, and he did not come back to the house until very late that night. The following day, it was the same thing, and this went on for several days in a row. The young woman could not take it anymore. Her suffering was so great that in the end, she threw herself in the river and drowned. When the young father heard this news, he returned to the house, and that night he was the one who went to get the lamp and lit it. Suddenly, the child cried out, Mister, it's my daddy. He's come back. And he pointed to the shadow of his father on the wall. You know, Mister, my father comes every night. Mommy talks to him, and sometimes she cries. And every time she sits down, my daddy sits down too. In reality, this woman had been alone in the house too much, and every night she had talked to her shadow. My dear one, you are so far away from me. How can I raise my child all by myself? You must come back home soon, she would cry. And of course, every time she sat down, the shadow would also sit down. Now the husband's false perception was no longer there, but it was too late. His wife was already dead. A misperception is something that can destroy an entire family. The Buddha told us a number of times that we are subject to misperceptions in our everyday life. Therefore, we have to pay close attention to our perceptions. There are people who hang on to their misperceptions for 10 or 20 years. And during this time, they continue to suffer and make other people suffer. Why did the young father not want to talk this thing over with his wife? Because pride got in between them. If he had asked his wife, "Who is this person who comes every night? Our child told me about him. I am suffering so much, my darling. You have to help me. Explain to me who this person is." If he had done that, his wife would have had a chance to explain, and the drama could have been avoided. However, it was not only his fault, but that of his young wife as well. She could have come to him and asked him the reason for his change in attitude. "Husband, why don't you look at me anymore? Why don't you talk to me? Have I done something awful that I deserve such treatment? I am suffering so much, dear husband. You have to help me." She did not do this, and I do not want to make you the same mistake in your everyday life. We are subject to misperceptions every day, so we have to pay attention. Every time you think it is somebody else who is causing the suffering, you must remember the story. You must always check things out by going to the person in question and asking for his or her help. "Dear one, I am suffering so much. Help me, please." Deep listening. You have received the transmission of the 4 mantras for this practice of true love. You know that it is not difficult to practice these mantras. You should learn them by heart, and you must have the courage, the wisdom, and the joy to practice them. But if the situation has already become extremely difficult, what can you do? What can you do if love has already caused too much suffering between the two of you? For appearances, you behave so that others will think that you two are still living together and that you still find joy in living together. But in reality, there is no more joy. There is no more happiness. There isn't even communication anymore. You have lost the capacity to listen and to speak. Communication has become difficult, in fact, impossible. What can you do in a situation like this? The two of you have been living together and making each other suffer. According to Buddhism, we are dealing with the lump of suffering within us that is translated as an internal formation. When you say something that makes another person suffer, that person develops an internal formation. If that person is trained in Buddhism, he or she will know how to untie that knot. If not, he will let it remain there in the depths of his consciousness. If you are a person who practices mindfulness, you will be aware that a knot has been formed in the person you love, and you will know how to untie it. Every day we say or do things that might leave behind internal formations in the person we love. Following that, then the suffering and pain can grow, and the person we love turns into something like a bomb that might explode at any moment. A few words are all it takes to trigger anger in this person who you are afraid to approach and who you are afraid to talk to because he or she has become a bomb loaded with too much suffering. When you try to get away from him or her, this person thinks that you do so out of contempt, and their suffering increases. You also have become a bomb because you have lost the ability to speak the language of peace, of understanding. You have lost the ability to listen, and so all communication has become impossible. In Buddhism, we talk about a bodhisattva, the one who has the ability to listen and to understand the suffering of others. If we evoke his name, it is in order to learn to listen. In everyday life, deep listening, attentive listening is a meditation. If you know the practice of mindful breathing, if you wish to maintain calm and living compassion within you, then deep listening will be possible. Through the practice of walking meditation, through sitting meditation, through mindful breathing, we can cultivate calm. We can cultivate awareness, and we can cultivate compassion. And that way we will be able to sit there and listen to the other. The other suffers as long as he is in need of someone to listen to him. And you are the person who can do it. If someone has to have recourse to a psychotherapist, it is because no one in his house can listen. A psychotherapist should be able to sit there and really listen. But I know therapists who have suffered too much and do not truly have the ability to listen to their clients. So if we love someone, we should train in being able to listen. By listening with calm and understanding, we can ease the suffering of another person. An hour spent in this way can already relieve a great deal of another person's pain. In Plum Village, our practice place, deep listening is a very important practice. Every week we get together once or twice to practice listening deeply to each other. As we listen, we do not say anything. We breathe deeply and we open our hearts in order to really listen to one another. 1 hour of this kind of listening is very effective, and it is something very precious that can be offered to the person you love. Learning to speak with love again. Associated with the practice of deep listening is the practice of loving speech. We must learn to speak with love again. This is a thing that can be done in a practice community where brothers and sisters practice loving speech every day. There are pacifists who can write protest letters of great condemnation, but who are incapable of writing a love letter. You have to write in such a way that the other person is receptive toward reading. You have to speak in such a way that the other person is receptive towards listening. If you do not, it is not worth the trouble to write or to speak. To write in such a way is to practice meditation. I remember a young American who came to us in practice. One day he was asked to write a letter to his mother, which was easy for him. On the other hand, it was impossible for him to write a letter to his father. His father had died, but he still suffered every time he thought of him. Just the idea of picking up a pen to write to his father already caused him a great deal of suffering. I proposed the following practice to him. For 1 week, he practiced mindful breathing, saying to himself, breathing in, I see myself as a child of 5. When one is a little boy of 5, one is very fragile and vulnerable. As he was breathing in, he saw himself as the object of his own compassion. During the 2nd week, he meditated on his father. Breathing in, I see my dad as a little child of 5. Breathing out, I smile at the little boy who was my dad. For a whole week, the young American practiced very faithfully and very enthusiastically. He put a photo of his father on the table, and every time he walked into the room and looked at it, he practiced mindful breathing. He had never imagined that his father could have been a child of 5. Suddenly, the young man acknowledged the presence of his father as a little boy. It was the first time that he realized that his father had suffered as a little boy, and suddenly he felt compassion. Finally, one evening, he found it possible to write a first letter to his father, and that transformed him completely. And now he has peace in his heart. Meditation is the practice of looking deeply into the nature of your suffering and your joy. Through the energy of mindfulness, through concentration, looking deeply into the nature of our suffering, makes it possible for us to see the deep causes of that suffering. If you can keep mindfulness and concentration alive, then looking deeply will reveal to you the true nature of your pain, and freedom will arise as a result of your sustaining a deep vision into the nature of your pain. Solidarity, freedom, calm, and joy are the fruits of meditation. Restoring peace within yourself. During the day, if you practice walking meditation, each step brings you back to the present moment. Each step enables you to touch what is beautiful, what is true. And in this way, after a few weeks of practice, joy will become something possible. You will be able to undo many knots with yourself, and you will be able to transform negative energies into joy and peace. The Buddha said this: the object of your practice should first of all be yourself. Your love for the other, your ability to love another person, depends on your ability to love yourself. If you are not able to take care of yourself, if you are not able to accept yourself, how could you accept another person, and how could you love him or her? So it is necessary to come back to yourself in order to be able to achieve the transformation. Each of us is a king who reigns over a very vast territory that has 5 rivers. The first river is our body, which we do not know well enough. The second is the river of sensations. Each sensation is a drop of water in this river. There are pleasant sensations, others that are unpleasant, and neutral sensations. To meditate is to sit down on the bank of the river of sensations and identify each sensation as it arises. The third is the river of perceptions, which it is necessary to observe. You must look deeply into their nature in order to understand. The fourth is the river of mental formations, of which there are 51. And finally, the fifth is the river of consciousness. Our territory is really very vast, but we are not responsible kings or queens. We always try to dodge away, and we do not keep up a real surveillance of our territory. We have the feeling that there are immense conflicts there, or too much suffering, too much pain. That is the reason we are very hesitant to get back to the territory. Our daily practice consists in running away. If we have a moment free, we will make use of it to watch television or read a magazine article, so we will not have to go back to our territory. We are afraid of the suffering that is inside of us, afraid of war and conflicts. The practice of mindfulness, the practice of meditation, consists of coming back to ourselves in order to restore peace and harmony. The energy with which we can do this is the energy of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a kind of energy that carries with it concentration, understanding, and love. If we come back to ourselves to restore peace and harmony, then helping another person will be a much easier thing. Caring for yourself, reestablishing peace in yourself, is the basic condition for helping someone else, so that the other can stop being a bomb, a source of pain for ourselves and others. You really have to help him to diffuse the bomb. To be able to provide help, we have to have a little calm, a little joy, a little compassion in ourselves. This is what we get from mindfulness in everyday life, because mindfulness is not something that is only done in a meditation hall. It is also done in the kitchen, in the garden, when we are on the telephone, when we are driving a car, when we are doing the dishes. If you can do it this way, 3 weeks are enough to transform the pain inside you, to bring back your joy in living, to cultivate the energy of compassion with which you can help the person you love. The practice of being there with what is beautiful and with what is healing is something we should do every day. And it is possible to do this in everyday life. End of part 1.